Everyone, I'm Sujin Lee. I'm volunteering with MoDev, and welcome to our breakout session. We have Jason Spalding. He's from the U.S. Army, and the title of the session is How the U.S. Army is Leveraging ML and AI for Better Horizontal Data Integration. So take it away. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks. All right, good morning. So I work at so it's a long title, but basically I work at one of the 165 innovation units there in the Department of Defense. So we specialize in sustainment, so trying to get all the logistics to work together. So everyone wants curated data. So growing up, my parents got two separate newspapers, and that kind of describes my childhood. But they needed two separate papers, the News Virginian and the Daily News Leader from a small town in Virginia. But everyone wants curated data. They want a single pane of glass so I can view the entire data lake and see everything and know everything. But there's a lot of data out there. So the problem is how are you going to receive that data? So I'll give you an example. So last fall, I had to go out to Eastern Europe. There's a lot of fun stuff going on in Ukraine, but we needed a way to track $110 billion worth of stuff that was getting donated. So we're like, oh, we can build this huge database. Let's use Excel, let's use SQL, but we got to talk to everybody. US people need to see it. NATO partners need to see it. Other countries who aren't part of NATO want to donate stuff. And so a bunch of non-governmental organizations need to donate stuff. So instead of building a huge data set, we used a wedding registry because there's zero training involved. Everyone's either got married or used a wedding registry. So no training. It's kind of secure, so it's authenticated. We would authenticate users through multi-factor authentication. But yes, we used a wedding registry to manage $110 billion worth of equipment that we ultimately gave to the Ukrainians. So that's horizontal data integration. So data from multiple people and access. Now they use a Jura database through SkyBlue, but that was the easiest way to get all the data. So it may not be this huge system to do anything. It can be simple as a wedding registry. It gives a user experience. I'm from Iceland. I would like to donate this piece of equipment, and ultimately I can look, okay, Iceland needs to donate this, and we can coordinate the logistics to get it there. So that, yes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So when you're saying they're like the US citizens are donating stuff to Ukrainians, what are these? Are they like tractors or guns? I mean, I'm not sure. Or is it like food and clothes?
So there's multiple streams. So I'll give a little history of kind of, so there's a couple different donation streams of how things get to Ukraine. From the US government perspective, there's foreign military sales. So that's headed through the Department of State. It's actually not the military. The Department of State coordinates the military, just does the training. Now, what you see all the things on the news, that's called a presidential drawdown. So by law, it's limited to $100 million a year. They passed something in Congress last year, and it went up to $100 billion. But presidential drawdown is stuff that's currently within the government inventory. So it's like a sunk cost, essentially. So we have some, pieces of military equipment that's sitting at Sierra Army Depot in California. We could give it to the Ukrainians.
Oh, I see. And which wedding registry did you all use?
So I'm not going to say the wedding registry, but
I mean, it was a legit one that.
Yes, it was a legitimate wedding registry is what we ended up using.
So the system was already there and you're just using it. That's very cool.
Right. So now we use, so it's SkyBlue. It's basically Jura engineered for the government. But basically what it does is it creates a Office 365 intranet. So you get a dongle with a number randomizer. So basically, if say you're Iceland and I'm America, so you have a Word document with some information I need. So you download the app, it's device agnostic, you go on there, you type in your little code, I give you access to upload your Word document, it goes in there, I go on my Office, and so I can pull that over to my US computer and do that. So ultimately what a wedding registry does, this is just a little more secure. It's a government program for 5 years. It's basically Jura, and it's SkyBlue is the name of the thing. But interoperability is also a problem in just the government in general and just other outside agencies. So how do you get all those people that horizontal data integration? So yes, I can see all the data in my company, but I also need a little bit from over here and over here to ultimately make that decision. So the Army and the government has put out lots of strategies to improve data. So what we're currently working on is fuel. So that's a big thing. You can't go anywhere without fuel. So at the National Training Center, and this is where the Army and other forces do a lot of maneuvering around and drive around in the desert. Well, we historically misallocate anywhere from 150,000 to 250,000 gallons of fuel because we have bad estimating because we don't have the data, right? So we, in the Army, we still measure fuel with sticks. Most of the government or even commercial industry, you'll see the guy putting fuel into the gas station and he'll bring out this big long stick and he'll put it in the tank to see how much is in there because we don't have a sensor and sensors break down in gas. So that's someone manually entering that data, which can be fraught with danger. So our section did an experiment about a year ago at NTC, and we built a decision support tool to measure how much fuel. And it ultimately gave the commander or CEO, whoever wants to make a decision, if you want to go left and drive this far, it'll take you this much fuel. So, and they did 2 case studies. So they had a team of 50 people that were planning, doing it the old way, and then they used some machine learning or AI to do it the other way. This took them 48 hours to do it. The AI, the decision support tool, could rapidly make the decision in seconds. I would like to go here and take this many tanks. Okay, you will need this much fuel. You need to set up resupply points here, here, and here. Well, actually, I want to go backwards. Oh, okay, backwards. Seconds, which would take days for 50 people to plan. So that's the power of using data, but you also have to have the right data. So the government, the Army has lots of data. The problem is people don't input the human in the loop, the data correctly. So as an example, we have a dispatching software. So you dispatch a truck to drive somewhere. Well, if I don't attach that trailer to the truck, I don't get any of that data. So right now in the Army, trailer tires last forever because according to the authoritative data source, they never get driven. Now, we all know they get attached to a tractor trailer and get moved, but no human is inputting that in the system. Same thing with forklifts. So they just move around the thing. No one's tracking the amount of hours into the authoritative data source that they're using. So, well, when do I need to replace that forklift? Well, it's never been used according to our, all the way at the Pentagon when they're looking, all right, when is the time to replace forklifts? So the problem with data, it's great, but you need to have an authoritative data source that's good or I believe the term is called a fuzzy model, right? So we don't need it 100% accurate. Like your thermostat, your smart thermostat operates on a fuzzy model. If it was an accurate model, like, oh, I need it to be 72 degrees in here, right? So the heat and air conditioner would be coming on all the time to be perfectly 72 degrees. Well, it doesn't operate on a model, so it's called fuzzy model. So give or take a 10 degree, we'll turn on a little AC here, turn on a little heat here, and we'll optimize that. So most things operate on a fuzzy model, not an exact model of it needs to be 72 degrees in here. But models are good. So I accept all cookies. Give me all the information that I need. I have 602 things saved in my Amazon cart. Why would I do that? Because I can track if the price goes down, and Amazon through their analytics, they're going to start moving the things I have saved for later to a warehouse closer to me. So when I want to order it, I can get it overnight in 24 hours as opposed to 3 because they're like, and I'll get ads targeted me of things I have saved in the cart that I'm interested in. So I'm going to give them a better data set to work with. And it's the same thing in the military. So just like my parents with their 2 newspapers, each commander or CEO is going to want information different. Like, do they want a PowerPoint slide? In the military, we call it a stoplight chart. It's basically a bunch of circles with red, amber, and green. Green meaning good, amber, and so on. So how is that person going to receive that information? So by building this single pane of glass, we have to curate it. So how do you want to receive it? Do you want it to chat? So basically just query the authoritative data source, like how many tanks are up in the United States Army today? I just type it in. The chatbot would give me that answer. Would you like it visualized? Yes. And you can do that with Power BI and Copilot. Now, as far as the future state of the military and data transfer, we run into this, as they do in Ukraine, this jamming. So we're jamming data. So I can't get data. So everyone thinks it's jammed. There's no data moving. Not entirely accurate. So as an example, the Ukrainians use an app. It's called Kapriva. It means it's like a thistle is the name of it. So it's like a cold nettle soup. But basically what the app does is it writes off a mesh network, so the Bluetooth within your phones. So it's not as jammable, and obviously if you're close enough, it'll still work. So as an example, they've taken 7,000 cell phones and put them on every single electric pole, right? So it has a power source, right? And it has a mesh network. They're close enough that they can talk to each other. And what do? They turn the mic on. So they hear the sound. Now, I'll reference that sound to an authoritative data source. What's a T-72 tank sound like? We know there's accurate recordings. So now I have a geo-reference because I know where I put phone X with IMEI ID. So now in my Kapriva app, if I'm a Ukrainian 5 miles away, I go, oh, there's a T-72 tank moving into my area. Maybe I better go fly my drone. The Kapriva app also is all-inclusive. You can fly your drone through the app. So I launched my drone on my app. And it goes over, and now it looks at it. Oh, now it took a picture of it. Also goes back to authoritative data source. Yes, it's a tank. Now I send a fire mission to the field artillery, and they destroy said tank. Now that's a lot of different data sets that also required human in the loop. So required a human to put that sensor out there. It required humans to develop the target list. So yes, if you see this thing, you can engage it. So that's a way of data integration. Now, as far as the Army, what we're trying to do in the future in this denied, jammed environment is use new technology. Not really new, but I'm sure everyone loves touch to pay, right? So that's the Wi-Fi symbol kind of sideways on your credit card. So it's NFC, it stands for near field communication. It operates within about 10 centimeters. So you could pass data without being jammed. So if you're a vehicle, I need the data off there. I'm coming to refuel it. So you would take your card out of your vehicle, you would touch it to my device. I would get that data transferred to me. And then when I get back to a safer area, I would move that to the data broker and ultimately send it to the cloud. Now, as far as anyone familiar with Wi-Fi at all, it's called light fidelity. So everyone's turned on their TV lately, right? So that uses light fidelity. That's why it doesn't work if there's like a kid in front of it. So it has to be able to hit the light on the other side. But it's not jammable. I mean, yes, if there's interference, if there's something in, you can't jam light. And it travels at a much faster rate than Wi-Fi, almost 100 times faster. So you could have we have lights everywhere. All vehicles have LED headlights. So if I'm driving in a bunch of vehicles, same thing with autonomous driving, I could communicate to the vehicles just by oscillation of the headlights or taillights. And I just need to embed a dongle in the LED, and that light already talks to the CAN bus in the vehicle, so I could get that data already from the vehicle. So there's a bunch of companies that are doing it with Li-Fi Co. But that's a new way, not a new way, it's been around since 2010, or for a while. It got certified last year, but that's a way you can pass data in a jammed environment. Because we all need to move data, and the problem is this big, scary, jamming environment. If you've watched the Ukrainian conflict, so they weren't doing so well, and then they started hitting targets in Crimea. Well, they couldn't hit anything because it was jammed. So some Ukrainian special forces people, they took a jet ski and went out to some oil rigs. On all these oil rigs were jamming devices. So they took out the jamming devices, and then now their little autonomous boat or whatever could hit things because it would make the link to the Starlink because it wasn't being jammed. These are a lot of military anecdotes, but I would just say, in closing, we're in an 1880 moment. So the light bulb has been invented. Very wealthy people have this light bulb. So whether it's Llama, OpenAI, they have access to this huge model that costs a lot of money. So OpenAI, good, bad, or indifferent, they bankrupted a bunch of companies in the Northeast because they stole their water to fund their server farm. So they searched the internet from 2018 to 2020. That's the set of OpenAI. That's the beta version. Then they introduced the first version, ChatGPT 3, for free and got free input from you. No, that's not the right answer. Let me contribute to your model. ChatGPT 4 came out, best grossing thing ever, beat the iPhone. For $20, the highest grossing thing ever. So wealthy people have access to this massive data set, whether it's Rourke at Tesla, Elon Musk just built a massive data facility with, I think, over 1 million NVIDIA processors to manage the Rourke one. So very wealthy people have access to these huge models. So again, not unlike 1880 when Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, rich people or wealthy people have this light bulb. But further down the road, OpenAI will need lots of power. So the power grid, just like the light bulb has to invent it, Google and Microsoft are partnering with nuclear power plants in order to be able to power these data centers of the future. So we're at a pivotal moment of which way we're going to go. Is it's going to go AC? Is it going to go DC? Yeah, but I'll take any questions. Thanks for your time and thanks for attending.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So what is your passion and interest? Because I know you call yourself an AI enthusiast,
Yes.
but you gave us a lot of context. What are you really interested in? What's that big question that that keeps you up late at night?
So it literally does keep me up late. So I have a 2-year-old and 4-year-old, so I don't really sleep that much. But after one goes to bed between around 9, my other one likes to kind of shut down the club at 2 a.m. as a 4-year-old. But so I get some self-study quiet time from about 1 to 3 a.m. So I like to look at data and things. I would just say that there's a lot of software and things that we've already built. Is anyone familiar with the AT&T long lines? So you've probably seen them. They look like a big kind of conical structure that's on top of all the cell towers. There's a massive building in New York City that has no windows. That's an AT&T long line site. But AT&T long lines still have a faster rate than 5G. So most of your calls, cell phone, it's just a radio signal, still go through the AT&T long lines network that was created in the 60s as a secure form of communication for the government. You can look it up. It's one of the larger buildings in New York City that doesn't have any windows. And you see all those little AT&T or now Verizon, or you see all these. I mean, there's one right here in Tyson's Corner. There's a radio tower right behind one of the bars, but it has a fence around it that says property of Fort Belvoir. Fort Belvoir is way over here. So I would just say that there's a lot of technology out there. I attempted to find the end of the internet during COVID. I didn't, but I'm passionate about all things AI and learning about in the future. There's I don't know does anyone use the School app at all? It's SKOOL. So it's an online kind of like teaching thing. But there's Noelle Russell. She talked at the GovAI. She's top 50 AI person in the world. But she runs it's called I Love AI on School. But they offer lots of free courses. There's one you can pay for monthly, but they do a project every month. So last month we built a chatbot using OpenAI. This month we did prompts into Copilot. Or last month. This month we'll use Gemini. So like you've all seen the chat bots that pop up in the bottom right-hand corner of any website you go to. You can build one using OpenAI, and it costs about $6 in the matter of an hour, as long as you have a data source to vector to. So like we built some for a pizza company, or I made a pizza company, but you have to vector to a menu, right? And what your area wants to be. So if they type in there, hey, my address is so-and-so, I use Bing Maps since we're using Microsoft. This is where it's at. Oh, yes, I can deliver pizza to you. What would you like? I want this. Or we don't offer that on our menu, but it's very simple. And most websites now have a chat bot in the bottom right-hand corner.
So talk about the LIFI.
Yeah, it's LIFI. It's light fidelity.
It's faster than Wi-Fi or
100 times faster.
But you do need the lights.
Yeah, so what it would be is obviously these lights are LED. All you would need is a dongle on your phone or on your computer, and you could be getting information just by sitting here, which would save on lots of wires and other things running around.
So potentially it can replace Wi-Fi or?
Yes. Well, in like an indoor setting, it would it'd be a lot faster
Right.
and would work better than 5G because it doesn't work well in buildings.
But is that gonna be like directional?
Yes.
Okay. So cannot do like waveform, where waveform you can do like, 360, but
Yeah.
then Wi-Fi is only like, point to point, I guess.
But most things you're doing are static.
Oh, okay,
So your desk is static. You probably don't work in the dark, so you have a light.
okay.
And your Internet of Things within your house, your smart fridge or whatever, are static. And it's a lot cheaper than a bunch of Wi-Fi repeaters as well.
So I guess they use a wide spectrum to transmit data back and forth.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, it's on your TV remote.
Yeah.
That's Wi-Fi. It's pretty simple technology, but I mean, there's a lot of data that you put on your remote, like fast forward, back, stop, pause. Like it can move a lot of data, and it rapidly, changes your Netflix or whatever you're watching. Yes.
Curious, so at least a couple of the use cases that you talked about, do you feel right now that a lot of your work is addressing inefficiencies rather than maybe trying to innovate further?
So I would say, yes, there are lots of inefficiencies within the government. And I would say that change is hard to achieve. I would just say, people are going to go with what they're comfortable with and what they learned on. So yes, I think AI with some of the use cases can rapidly, force people to change. I would say that, just Ukraine is an example. The country rapidly changed overnight and people used whatever skill they had to, I just say that the government, it seems to be running okay right now. So we haven't pivoted to this moment of crisis or inflection point to fully, maybe realize the technologies that are out there.
And to add on to that, the Department of Defense always does what's needed, not what's wanted. So we might want the latest and greatest, but we have to worry about scale. So we do our requirements based on needs. And so when you do innovations, a lot of times the threat will drive a new innovation because of that becomes a new need to counter a threat or counter a capability. So it's some of the stuff we see it and we go, wow, that's great. We probably ought to modernize to the future. But if the old way is still working, then it stays in that need category until a threat counters it.
The government's kind of like your dad's basement. So all those cool electronic devices, like the government still has them and we still maintain them. So from an 8-track to a VCR to a DVD to a Blu-ray, because the government can't, or just the military, can't modernize all at once. So you have a guard unit or reserve unit. If they still have this old piece of tech, we still have to be able to talk to them. So we spend a lot of money maintaining old systems just so everyone can still talk to each other because not everyone's on the same plane.
Backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
Still addressing future parity then?
And we have to be good stewards of the government dollar, So we have to use what works, even if it's not the latest and greatest and shiniest. If it still works and it's cost avoidance and affordable, then that's what we do.
I mean, we're still using the big 5 technologies from Vietnam, essentially. So the Abrams tank, ADA, the Paladin, these are all things that were created coming out of Vietnam with the, General Starry, the second commander of training and doctrine command. So, I mean, we are trying to build new things. So a new helicopter that can do something or a new air defense system, but you're still using old tech. And the problem is with a lot of the tech is these things were made a long time ago. So if you want to put in another context, we'll say Taiwan, for example. So we make this thing, it's called a LRASM. It's a long-range anti-ship missile, right? It's on a boat to shoot something that's coming at it, right? Well, we'll say we need some more of them. Lockheed Martin closed that line 20 years ago. It would take you 10 years to build a line to make that thing again. So you have to remember that government programs' average lifespan is 50 years. We're still flying B-52 bombers, that same thing, Vietnam time frame. So the length of a thing, AOL, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, all these things that went out of business, and the time frame that you're going to maintain a program.
You still have Windows 95, right?
I mean, some of the government systems still run MS-DOS.
The state does too.
Yeah, I mean, just because everyone wants to have the new thing, but at scale, it's very hard.
And a lot of them will look like the same thing, but it's the J model or the K model. It's been, certain aspects of it have been product improvement type thing, but you don't replace the whole device.
I have another question
Sure.
for you since you have.
Yeah, no problem.
You have 5 minutes.
Sure.
So I was going to talk a few months ago at the Rayburn House, and it was, I'm gonna blank on his last name, Paul something, but he was talking more about navigating the appetite for laws for lethal atomic weapon systems. And his study was really interesting in that he found that some of the younger members of the government that were using these were actually less inclined to use them than the older. Have you noticed any patterns in appetite for some of the services that you guys are building and looking to replace with more like data integrated, AI, ML integrated systems?
So I would say that obviously AI and ML, I mean, most things at the end of the day, ChatGPT is just machine learning. It's you're solving for sentence completion. That's all it does. You're going to type something in, but you're telling the AI model and the 72,000 tokens to solve for sentence completion. So it's going to, if I say I would like, it's going to search the internet and, oh, well, the next word could be this, could be this, could be this, and it's going to give you that answer. So I will say within the government, things have to move extremely fast within the atomic weapons space. So Annie Jacobson just released her book about nuclear war, but she describes it it's basically 72 minutes. So these decisions have to be made very quickly. So there is some machine learning involved to solve these problems very rapidly and what your response is going to be. I will say that, I guess I'm kind of old now, so I joined the Army in 2003, so I've been in 20 plus years, but I will say the newer generation, so like we'll say brand new people that are joining the Army today, I will say ask more why questions, right? So why do we have to do this? Why do I need to do this? And I'll give you an example. So they do this cadet summer trainings for people that are become officers at Fort Knox. So the DFAC was not the dining facility was not serving optimal food. So in the old days, when I went through back in the early 2000s, you just eat the food and you move out. Well, the new people who all are, super influencers or whatever, they went on social media and they complained, which required the government in a 24-hour period to renegotiate the food contract at Fort Knox and provide better yogurt or whatever it was. But like, that's the difference of the people joining the Army today using technology to benefit things. Whereas I guess my generation, you just, sure, I mean, the food is there, it's okay. I'll just, it's not my highest concern. But I was saying that now today, like lots of people, the younger, they all wear the ring that tracks your analytics. You don't see much of the older generation unless they have a heart problem, wearing an Apple Watch that's going to give them all that analytics to their doctor. Whereas the new people, even my brother, who's a little bit younger than me, will freely give their data to everyone because it benefits them in some way. I mean, your iPhone between 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning sends 50 megabytes back to Apple of what you did today, or Google, or whatever the case may be, unless you have an unplugged phone. You're giving data to them. Same things when you do an update. You're not downloading an update. You're more uploading more data that they couldn't catch during the daytime. I mean, if you're someone,
Also a product of your environment.
yes, yeah.
I mean, like you're talking about it for generational and everything. how many people in this room only had one phone in the house, and it was hardwired, and it was in the kitchen by the refrigerator with a rotary dial.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and all like that, so it depends on what generation you're in, what is normal for you?
Right.
What did you grow up with? And so that changes your perspective of what should be and what is.
Great discussion, everyone. We're gonna wrap up because it is now 10:30 and the next group is coming in. Let's give Jason a round of applause.